Imagine a whisper, not a bang. A slow unraveling already threading its way through the fabric of our world. Seen decades ago through the veiled eyes of a woman who stared into the future. Jeane Dixon, a name synonymous with chilling foresight. She didn't just predict moments, she foresaw eras. And her final, most persistent vision fits squarely on now. On the precipice we find ourselves upon as 2025 unfolds. The headlines flashing across your screen, the scorching heat, the digital revolutions, the simmering tensions aren't just random chaos. According to Dixon's last prophecies, they are the tremors before a seismic shift. A shift where the very pillars of our lives, the safety of our families, the security of our livelihoods, the freedoms we hold dear, hang in a delicate, dangerous balance. To dismiss this as mere coincidence is to walk blindfolded towards a cliff edge glimpsed long ago. The patterns Dixon described. They're not just echoing, they're amplifying. This isn't about fear for fear's sake. It's about recognizing the unsettling currents she mapped in her time, currents that seem to be converging here now on our watch. Ignore the whispers of the past about our present, and the future rushing towards us may arrive not with a roar, but with a silent, irreversible slide. The clock she sensed. Is it merely ticking, or is its rhythm accelerating towards a point of no return she dared to outline? Emerging from the smoke-filled rooms of mid-century power, a figure both revered and reviled. Jeane Dixon, a name whispered in the corridors of the White House and dismissed in labs of cold reason. This was the woman to whom presidents leaned close, seeking glimpses beyond the horizon. The same woman whose claimed foresight sketched the chilling arcs of history before they hardened into fact. The crack of a rifle in Dallas ending Camelot. The crumbling of an imperial presidency in Watergate's wake. Even the shadow of fallen towers darkening a September sky decades later. Her gift, she insisted, was not prophecy, but seeing piercing the veil through prayer and visions. And in her final years, as the 20th century gasped its last, her unwavering focus locked onto a single pivotal year, 2025. Not merely a date, but a hinge, a great groaning door swinging between ruin and rebirth. She saw converging storms, economies fracturing like thin ice, old hatreds igniting under the pressure of scarcity. And amidst the chaos, a profound, almost desperate surge of the human spirit seeking light. Now, as our reality unfolds, as July 2025 bleeds record heat onto scorched earth, as digital currencies rewrite the rules of wealth, as ancient tensions flare with modern weapons, her Hinge year ceases to be abstract history. It pulses with terrifying immediacy. Tonight, we don't peddle easy answers or stoke irrational fear. We trace the contours of her last potent vision against the stark landscape of now. Was Dixon's 2025 a comforting fiction for a bygone era? Or does it hold, buried within its unsettling imagery, a fractured roadmap for navigating the precipice upon which we stand? Prepare to step beyond the legend and confront the unsettling truth resonating from her final warnings. The year was 1997. The century was dying, and so, it seemed, was Jeane Dixon. Yet within her frail frame burned an unyielding fire. The visions wouldn't release her. Confined, her physical world shrinking, her inner sight exploded. To her biographer, a captive scribe in those dimming hours, she poured out fragments charged with dread and destiny. Fire. Consuming more than forests. War. Born not just of nations, but of empty bellies and dry rivers, a great reset. Tearing down the towers men built. These weren't pronouncements from a crystal ball glinting under stage lights. Dixon's window to tomorrow was forged in silence in the crucible of prayerful trance. She described sinking into profound stillness, a sacred space where dreams weren't mere figments, but urgent bulletins, transmissions from what she called divine messengers. These weren't cryptic symbols needing arcane interpretation. They were stark, visceral impressions she termed God's headlines, raw glimpses of futures clamoring for attention. And why fixate on 2025? It pulsed in her visions like a dark star. Dixon saw history not as a straight line, but as a pendulum swinging on a century's hinge. 1925, the dizzying, decadent peak of the Roaring Twenties. A world drunk on illusion before the Great Depression's crash. 2025, the counterswing, she believed, a reckoning. 100-year cycle culminating in a convergence point where humanity's accumulated choices, our greed, our divisions, our forgotten spirit, would demand an accounting. Now, feel the weight of now. As July 2025 bleeds, her fire manifests in climate models screaming off the charts, continents smoldering. Her war echoes not just in artillery, but in trade wars strangling supply chains and AI labs racing toward uncharted power. Her reset whispers in the rise of decentralized currencies, challenging old empires of finance and the global youth demanding radical change. The century's pendulum, frozen at its apex in 1925's glitter, is hurtling down. Dixon didn't give us a date-stamped apocalypse. She gave us a pattern, a chilling resonance between her God's headlines received in the stillness of 97 and the roaring, fractured reality unfolding outside your window right now. The method may defy our labs, the origin of frail woman's whispered fears, but the premise. The premise feels unerringly, urgently alive. Dixon's final visions weren't isolated portents. They were a constellation of converging calamities, each a dark star pulling us toward her hinge year. First, the Great Collapse. She spoke not of a mere recession, but a financial tsunami, a wave of pure, systemic trust dissolving, washing away institutions once thought unassailable. Feel that tremor beneath your feet? It's the aftershock of 2023's bank runs, Silicon Valley, Dixon's vision of nature's revenge, skies scorching, coast surrendering. Canada's 2023 inferno was a warning shot. A light in the east, not of conquest, but of consciousness, a billion sparks of spiritual seeking igniting a collective yearning for meaning beyond material ruin. The surge in meditation apps, merely the digital ripple. Now, witness India spearheading a global yoga diplomacy initiative, embedding mindfulness in UN crisis response. See the underground networks flourishing, Gen Z turning to ancient philosophies, not religions, seeking resilience. Community-supported spirituality apps leveraging blockchain for trust, digital ashrams connecting seekers across war zones. It's a quiet revolution, a desperate, beautiful reach for inner peace as the outer world fractures, the uniting hope Dixon sensed rising from the ashes of the old world. Her prophecies weren't fate-sealed. They were a stark map of converging paths. The collapse, the hunger, the plague, the fire, their shadows stretch long over our July. But that flickering awakening? It whispers that the hinge hasn't fully swung, yet the final direction depends on which current we choose to feed. This July, the planet burns. Records shatter weekly, infernos devouring ancient European forests, tropical storms fueled by ocean heat boiling off the charts, Antarctic ice shelves fracturing at speeds defying worst-case models, Florida's vanishing shores, a microcosm. From Miami to Mumbai, coastlines are rewriting themselves in real time, displacing millions. The scorching skies aren't metaphor. They're the air we breathe, thick with the ash of a world Dixon warned was pushed to its breaking point. Signature, mere tremors compared to the instability rattling European banks this very July as digital currencies falter and gold surges. Mirroring the BRICS nations' accelerating push toward a tangible, gold-anchored alternative. The architecture of global wealth Dixon saw cracking? It is groaning under the weight of a eye-driven market chaos and the silent panic over. Central bank digital currencies struggling to launch. This isn't just money vanishing. It's the foundation shaking. And when foundations crumble, primal fears ignite. Dixon's second dread, wars of hunger. Not grand armies clashing over ideology, but desperate conflicts flaring over life's bare essentials. Food, water, the very energy to survive. See the echoes? The Ukrainian grain blockade was a prelude. Now witness the Nile Dam standoff escalating towards water wars under this scorching sun. While in the Pacific, Fishing fleets bristle with warships over collapsing stocks. China's ominous maneuvers around Taiwan aren't just about territory. They pulse with the threat to strangle critical food supply chains. Dixon's energy deserts manifest in real time. Nations hoarding resources, populations rationing power under record heat. The geopolitical map redrawn not by borders, but by scarcity. The war isn't always declared. It's fought in empty stomachs and dry wells. Amidst this tangible chaos, Dixon foresaw a more insidious shadow, the silent plague. No fever, no cough, a mind sickness, a chilling despair metastasizing through the soul of humanity, far deadlier than any virus. The WHO's warning of a 25% depression surge since 2020 was the canary. Now, step into July 2025. Gen Alpha reports unprecedented levels of existential dread. Therapists overwhelmed not by pandemic grief, but by pervasive digital disillusionment. The loneliness epidemic Dixon might have sensed. It's here. Companion bots proliferate while human connection frays, social media algorithms feed nihilism, and a generation raised on virtual connection drowns in real-world isolation. The plague doesn't kill the body. It erodes the will to live. And pressing down upon it all, the wrath of a world pushed too far. Sky fire. Yet, within this gathering storm, Dixon glimpsed the countercurrent, the awakening. It whispers that the hinge hasn't fully swung, yet the final direction depends on which current we choose to feed. So we stand at the precipice, gazing into the chasm between Jeane Dixon's 1997 whispers and the roaring complexity of July 2025. The question hangs, thick as the heat haze outside. Coincidence or connection? How does a woman steeped in prayerful trances decades before the smartphone dawn seemingly brush against the jagged edges of our reality, the looming specter of central bank digital currencies redefining money, the quantum leaps in the ivory writing consciousness itself? Was it mere luck, a cosmic roll of the dice landing on patterns we now recognize? Or did Dixon, in her God's headlines, momentarily tap into fate's very blueprint, a hidden architecture of cause and effect vibrating beneath the surface of time? The skeptics, like the razor-sharp Dr. Michael Shermer, offer cold water, cold reading, vague pronouncements, infinitely malleable, retrofitted by desperate minds onto the chaos of the present. And the record is undeniably patchy. For every chilling hit, the Dallas motorcade, the crack of the bullet meant for Reagan, there stands a stark miss, like her prophesied 1984 global war that dissolved into history's fog. Yet, her biographer Lindo counters with a shiver of the inexplicable. Years before IBM unveiled its roadmap, Dixon described machines harnessing the dance of the smallest things, a hauntingly precise metaphor for quantum computing as core principle. It wasn't jargon. It was vision, raw and unfiltered. Herein lies the unsettling key to Dixon's reliability. Her prophecies thrive not in calm, but in chaos. They gain terrifying clarity when the world trembles. And look around you now. Is 2025 not chaos incarnate? The frantic global scramble to regulate AI that's outpacing ethics? The geopolitical fault lines cracking under resource strain? The very air shimmering with instability? It's a world perfectly tuned to amplify Dixon's frequency. But here's the critical truth, the one we must grasp amidst the eerie resonance. Prophecies are not scripts etched in stone by some indifferent hand. They are warnings screened across the gulf of time. They are the subconscious of humanity, projected onto the future, primal fears and desperate hopes given form. Dixon's final visions, resonating with our July's turmoil, aren't a death sentence. They are a stark, flashing beacon. Change course. They scream of the great collapse when we ignore inequality's rot. They whisper of wars of hunger if we let scarcity breed hate. They manifest the silent plague when we sacrifice connection for digital ghosts. They ignite the sky fire by our refusal to heed the planet's fever. The chilling alignment isn't proof of predestination. It's evidence of pattern recognition at the edge of catastrophe. It's the echo of choices made, amplified into prophecy. The quantum labs humming today, the CBDC debates fracturing alliances. They aren't fulfilling Dixon's words. They are testing them. They ask us, will we succumb to the convergence storm she sends? Or will the awakening, the surge in global mindfulness, the reach for ancient wisdom in digital spaces, India's quiet diplomatic light, become the countercurrent strong enough to swing the Hinge toward renewal? Dixon didn't give us a fixed future. She handed us a mirror, reflecting our deepest anxieties about paths already being walked. The decoding isn't about proving her right. It is about recognizing if the reflection we see in July 2025 as glare is one hurtling toward her darkest fears, or one capable of heeding her final desperate warning in time. Trace the scars of these 5 years, and you trace the ghostly outline of Dixon's Hinge year taking shape. The pandemic wasn't just a virus. It was the first domino shattering global trust, exposing brittle supply chains, manifesting her empty shelves prophecy, not as metaphor, but as panic-buying shadows in supermarkets from London to Lagos. That chaos became fertile ground. The Ukraine war fell next, not merely a conflict, but the catalyst for Dixon's wars of hunger. See its echoes now. In July 2025, grain silos half empty from extended Black Sea tensions, fertilizer shortages withering crops across Africa, the UN warning of 50 new hunger hotspots ignited by climate and conflict combined. And then, the AI explosion. Not just innovation, but a seismic tremor Dixon might have called machines that think, hearts that freeze. Witness its chilling consequence this month. Mass white-collar layoffs as language models devour knowledge work. Gen Z surveys showing 40% doubt their careers will exist in 2030. A palpable societal numbness settling over automated cities. These weren't random tragedies. They were cascading fractures aligning with the fault lines she described decades ago. So look ahead, through the heat haze of this July. If the resonance holds, if we remain passive, Dixon's vision suggests stark signposts on the road ahead. Cashless societies aren't a speculative fiction anymore. The ECB's digital euro pilot launches in Frankfurt next week. China's e-yuan now settles 15% of its oil imports. Your wallet is becoming cold, vulnerable to glitches and control. Resource rationing, Europe's 2023 energy caps were a dress rehearsal. Now, California mandates water quotas as reservoirs evaporate, and the G7 quietly debates global lithium allocation for the green transition. Scarcity is policy, not prophecy. Yet amidst this gathering pressure, observe the counter-rhythm Dixon called the awakening, hashtag meditation single quotes as 68 billion views. Merely a ripple. This July, India hosts the largest global mindfulness summit in history, embedding ancient practices in refugee crisis response. Underground digital sanctuaries flourish, youth trading crypto for communal gardens, CEOs funding tech sabbaticals, neuroscientists documenting collective resilience networks blooming online. It's a quiet exodus from the crumbling temple of endless consumption. This is the fragile silver lining Dixon sense. A generation not waiting for rescue, but actively choosing connection over consumption, peace over predatory profit. But heed this well. Her visions weren't a spectator sport. The dominoes didn't stop falling in 2022. They're accelerating right now. The cashless grid locking into place, the rationing algorithms being coded, the spiritual networks straining against the tide of despair. These are today's choices hardening into tomorrow's reality. The awakening isn't guaranteed salvation. It's a potential path, overgrown and fragile, requiring conscious, collective cultivation before the final domino teeters. Dixon's prophecy doesn't promise doom. It illuminates the precipice we've reached through choices already made. The consequences unfolding this scorching July, they're not fate. They're the echo of our past neglect meeting the urgent, trembling potential of our next move. The hinge creaks, but which way it swings still echoes in the choices we make before midnight. So where does this leave us? Here in the crucible of July 2025. Jeane Dixon's final vision wasn't a death warrant carved in stone. It was a flare shot into the gathering storm, a desperate illumination of the precipice we've built through decades of choices echoing in this scorching summer's heat. The empty shelves, the hunger maps expanding, the silent dread in digitized eyes, the coast surrendering inch by inch. These aren't prophecies fulfilled, but warnings manifest. To dismiss the eerie resonance between her gorgeous headlines and our fractured reality is to sleepwalk toward the cliff edge she glimpsed. Yet, that fragile counterpulse, the global surge toward mindful connection, the quiet rebellion against the machine's cold logic, whispers that the hinge hasn't slammed shut. Ignoring the pattern now risks everything we hold sacred, but heeding it, that's the first trembling step toward weathering the gale. This isn't about passive fear. It's about active awareness. If this journey through the looking glass Dixon held up has stirred something within you, a chill of recognition, a spark of resolve, then let it be known. Add your voice below. Are you seeing the signs? Are you preparing? Become part of the watchful. For this isn't merely history unfolding. It's the living edge of your future. And the mystery deepens. Why, centuries apart, did another seer, shrouded in enigma, fix his sights on this very year 2025? Nostradamus' cryptic quatrains and Dixon's prayerful visions. Are they converging on the same terrifying truth? The clock ticks. The patterns align. We delve into the shadowed overlap. Next time, stay vigilant.